So, and this I can use to... Okay, this, yeah, okay. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to this Leo Apostel 100 event, Karen. And it's also very special for me to be here at the VUB, because in the 80s, I was also a student here, but in a completely different capacity. I've been studying handelsingenieur Solvay, and so some of you already told me, please do not mention the war. But in the meantime, I also studied philosophy in Antwerp, that I finished in 2018. And then afterwards, I also finished the Inter-University Research Master in Ghent, Brussels, and Antwerp. And today, I am a free PhD student in Ghent. And so today, I will present to you a philosophical stance Leo Apostel shared with Albert Einstein, which I call cosmic spiritual stance. Not working? Okay, that's what you said. Okay, so first, I will try to explain the incomprehension and confusion about Leo Apostel's atheistic spirituality. Secondly, I will move to the incomprehension and confusion about Albert Einstein's cosmic religious feeling. Then I will suggest and underpin what I call a philosophical stance, cosmic spiritual stance. So let's start. The incomprehension and confusion about the apostles we read in the foreword of Diderik Batens. We all met yesterday, a good friend of apostles. And he writes there that he became despondent about the reactions he received after the death in August in 95, after the death of Apostle. Both atheists and theists concluded that Apostle reconciled himself with the conception of God and had renounced atheism. However, later you read in this same introduction that the atheism of Apostle is an ontological atheism, meaning there is no God inside reality and also not outside reality. I have to point to the computer. Then secondly, Jean-Paul, maybe you remember it was in Ostend, the 22nd birthday of my father in 22. And Jean-Paul presented the work and the life of Leo Apostel, and he explained also, well, I also don't understand Apostle's atheistic spirituality that well. For example, he said, Apostle tried during meditation to imagine what it is like to be a star. To be clear, a celestial body. Okay. Another one that is Wim van Moer's book that you probably all know because he's from the VUB and was published in 2012, Atheistische Religiositeit. And he also starts this book from atheism and the kind of religious feeling seem to be each other's absolute opposites. This belief is also widespread among atheists. What he's doing in that book, he's doing a pragmatic analysis. Personally, I don't think that that is the right way to understand atheistic spirituality, but that's of course not the topic of my presentation here. Okay, so then let's move to the incomprehension and confusion about Einstein's cosmic religious feeling. I suppose that all of you, everybody knows that Einstein is one of the biggest physicists, but he also wrote a lot of articles about politics, about education, and so also on religion and science. And 5 of these articles are bundled in ideas and opinions. And he explains there how there is a third stage of religion, cosmic religious feeling. That's how he calls it. I will here not explain what is the first and the second one. I mean, you should just read this article. It's really very interesting. And he says it is very difficult to elucidate this feeling to anyone who is entirely without it, especially as there is no anthropomorphic conception of God corresponding to it. And then the reactions. There are so many really not only reactions about confusion, but really villain reactions and really opposition to this concept of cosmic religious feeling of Einstein. So let's look at one of them. In April 29, so 29, special relativity, 1905, general relativity, 1916. So it was already rocket science. And this cardinal in 1929, Cardinal O'Connell said to the people not to read anything about the theory of relativity because it is befogged speculation, producing universal doubt about God and his creation, cloaking the ghastly apparition of atheism. So I think it's something. Then a worried Rabbi Goldstein, he responded to this. He reacted on this opposition, severe opposition, and he asked Einstein, "Do you believe in God?" And Einstein, I think that most of the people know that. It's very common knowledge now. "I believe in Spinoza's God who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists." This is the very known Deus sive natura from Einstein, and there are a lot of articles, a lot of books about this Spinoza God and how we should interpret it. At the end of the 18th century, there was the pantheism strides about this topic. So that was in 1780. However, Einstein, he said, "Well, I am not an atheist, nor a pantheist." So one could also say that Einstein himself was not very clear, but there was some confusion. But it had to do with this God concept and not being an atheist nor a pantheist. Okay. So what should we do now then? In the Apostles' atheistic spirituality, no God in or outside reality. However, tension between ontological atheism and spirituality. So the question is, why using atheism, a term that refers to God, if there is no God? I mean, strange. And then Einstein's cosmic religious feeling, there, yes, okay, what about this concept of God? Einstein's God concept. Okay, now I go to the God delusion of Richard Dawkins. I have to say I'm absolutely not a fan of Richard Dawkins. Not at all, because he's dividing and he's not a bridge builder, as Karen said this morning, that is what we need. And as you also specified in the article that you published yesterday in the Morgen, I've read it. So no Dawkins, but however, what he's doing here is very, very interesting. In this first chapter of the God delusion, named A Deeply Religious Non-Believer, Einstein also said this about himself. He starts with quoting Einstein. "I don't try to imagine a personal God. It suffices to stand in awe at the structure of the world insofar as it allows our inadequate senses to appreciate it." So that's how he starts. In this first chapter, Dawkins is really trying to make sense of this God concept, and he says, well, this Einstein God concept, well, that's not the delusion I'm talking about. So let's see why he's saying that. Dawkins says. So, for example, he gives some very, very famous statements of Einstein, like the first one, God does not play dice. That can also mean randomness does not lie at the heart of all things. Did God have a choice in creating the universe? Could the universe have begun in another way? So, using God, according to Dawkins, Einstein is using God in a purely metaphorical, poetic sense. And so Dawkins, of course, knows all these physicists and probably also know all these physicists who publish books about physics, but where they use a lot of religious and metaphysical language and also the God. And so Dawkins says, I wish that physicists would refrain from using the word God in their special metaphorical sense. And I think on that, I agree with Dawkins. So I go first to, so for Einstein's cosmic religious feeling, he says there is no anthropomorphic God concept. That's something he's saying himself. So God is metaphorical for the structure of the universe, if we remind the quote before, and it is in a poetic sense. And so for Apostel, why, that's the same question as I had before. Why referring to God if there is no God inside or outside? He doesn't exist. Don't speak about things that do not exist. And then Jean-Paul already mentioned the definition of Apostel about spirituality yesterday. A systematic approach and strategy focused on experience that embody our relationship with deepest reality. So, okay. So far, so good. Enfin, not so good yet. So let's see what it is, a philosophical stance. And probably all of you know about the empirical stance of Bas van Fraassen. And he says an empirical stance is a philosophical approach. So I'm also reading with you. An empirical stance is a philosophical approach rather than a set of concrete beliefs that emphasizes an admiration for scientific practices and empirical evidence as the basis for knowledge. The second part, it involves an open-minded, non-dogmatic attitude towards scientific inquiry, a rejection of metaphysical explanations. And there I want to add something. You also have to know that Bas van Fraassen published a book, The Scientific Image, and also Laws and Symmetry. And there he absolutely takes a non-realistic, let's say, a very anti-realistic metaphysical position against I mean, for science, there is no metaphysical explanation, so also no metaphysical position towards science. Enfin, not a realistic one, at least. And a belief that beliefs are voluntary, rather than simply discovered through reason or tradition. So, but what is a belief? A belief can be that you are a Christian, and he is a Christian, and with all respect, of course. But the good, I think the good thing for him is this belief is voluntary. He just believes, and there is no reason or tradition that has something to say about his belief, and that's fine for me. But that is the empirical stance of Bas van Fraassen. Let's go then back to Einstein and Apostel, at least how I perceive them from the text that I have been reading. So I don't think that they differ from Bas van Fraassen, that they trust in scientific research methods to acquire knowledge. I think that everybody knows, we heard everybody, Apostel was also really committed to science. And they have, of course, I know, Einstein is a very, very known physicist, Apostel less, but there is a keen interest in theoretical physics, cosmology, and related mathematics in his later works. I will come back on that later. And they are also at least that's how I experience when I read them. They're creative and interdisciplinary minds, science, art, philosophy, because maybe a lot of people don't know, but when he was quite young, with friends, Einstein read a lot of philosophical and also poetic works. So, I mean, he read the Ethica of Spinoza. He read all kind of books of Ernst Mach. Well, that's known. I mean, he really was more than a physicist. I think that my earrings maybe make noise. No, it's okay. Okay, fine. Sorry. But then there is something else. What is different than this empirical stance of Bas van Fraassen? Metaphysical explanation. Is there realism? Is there naturalism towards science? Einstein, Apostel. And then you have also a feeling, experience of the largest reality, the cosmos. And for all the people who were yesterday in Ghent, when I saw the documentaries, I was like, yes, I never met him, but it's like I knew him. Because he was talking all the time about this largest reality and with the meditation that he was trying to grasp the whole, and of course the worldviews that were presented, that's also part of this wanting to see the whole. But it's also a feeling experience of the largest reality, the cosmos. And this, the urge for wholeness, that is a kind of metaphysical needs that we saw already, the old Greeks, with Aristotle, Plato. Okay, so now, of course, I didn't mention the title, different backgrounds and common grounds. So, of course, we know all, and I'm not going to dive in that, in their different backgrounds. We know that they have very different backgrounds. The background of Leo Apostel has been explained yesterday and also today. Einstein, I think everyone knows that he's German and that he's also Jewish. I'm almost there, eh? Don't worry. Okay, but Apostel's interest in physics and cosmology and metaphysics. Not many people talk about these works. Jean-Paul mentioned it yesterday, but he has, for example, in 1960 already metaphysicist said the metaphysical need. I wish to understand why the world I see around me, why the universe in which I live is as it is and not otherwise. I wish an explanation for the universe as a whole. In other words, why are the laws of nature as they are and not otherwise? And okay, I also talked with a lot of people about this oorsprong and natuurfilosofie. And everybody said, yeah, well, you know, but that was not the best work of Apostel. Let's forget about that. Yeah, well, and then don't you think that there are other people starting from physics and building a worldview? There is a very, very recent example, and that is on the origin of time of Thomas Hertog. He is starting from physics to build out this more than physics worldview that he is explaining in that book. So I think we should maybe look, because Apostel was doing it already in the 90s. Okay, the metaphysical explanation, Einstein, I mean, I don't try to imagine a personal God, and he also the structure of the world. So it seems that he thinks that there is really a structure of the world. So is he a realist? I don't know what is his metaphysical position, but it could be. That should be, I mean, a lot of people looked into that, certainly. And then the feeling and the experience of the largest reality, the cosmos. That's, I think, very important for the stance I want to make. Apostel, nu blijkt dat we ons wel degelijk, ik heb dat in het Nederlands gelaten, nu blijkt dat we ons wel degelijk situeren in het grootste geheel. That's when he's talking about atheistic spirituality and meditation. In de werkelijkheid als zodanig, wat we in de werkelijkheid als zodanig plaatsen, is onze eigen naakte werkelijkheid. Van ons alle doelen hebben we abstracte gemaakt. Gerichtheid op doelen is er dus afwezig. So it's the person itself who places himself in the largest reality, the cosmos. We can compare that with Einstein. The individual feels the futility of human desires and aims, and the sublimity and marvelous order which reveals themselves both in nature and in the world of thought. Individual existence impresses him as a sort of prison, and he wants to experience the universe as a single significant whole. So Einstein didn't do a meditation, but he had also the same feeling of experience of the whole. So no need for a God. I mean, there is no new metaphysical explanation, feelings. There is no need for a God. We do not require God concept. So consequently, we do not use the related terms, atheism, theism, deism, pantheism, to understand this physical philosophical stance. And in fact, I was even inspired by Apostel himself to come to this conclusion. Because he says, we place ourselves in a tradition, we all continue something. However, it is essential to understand that who is part of a tradition always should reinvent this tradition. Living is not repeating, going on is not doing the same. Sometimes continuing part of a tradition will require merging with parts of another tradition, and sometimes faithfulness will involve breaking with the tradition. So I suggest to understand this cosmic spiritual stance that both Einstein and Apostel share, we don't need these God and theism and things. No, it is a non-dogmatic, open-minded philosophical stance that goes hand in hand with a healthy trust in scientific research methods to acquire knowledge about life, the world and the universe, possibly metaphysical explanation required, like real or naturalism. It starts from humility and awe, is driven by a sense of wonder about the cosmos, the largest reality. This spiritual appreciation of the universe is mediated by science, mathematics, and arts, and the fact that reference to God concepts and belief in God concepts are not required to explain and understand this philosophical stance does not mean that pluralism in society is not embraced. No, because if you read their works, there is a very, very strong moral motivation and towards other people. Of course, I cannot emphasize on that here. Okay, but yeah, okay. Well, how can we make sense of this cosmic spiritual stance? Einstein says, in my view, it's the most important function of art and science to awaken this feeling. Einstein says this. Awaken this feeling and keep it alive in those who are receptive to it. Apostles in this, I think that you all know that, Apostles interdisciplinary project Einstein meets Margriet already in 95 brings together just these insights of science and arts. And now I want to say just 2 minutes and 3 slides. No, it's really important because Maarten yesterday, I really have a great esteem for Maarten, but he said something and I don't agree with that. He said, yeah, well, you know, Apostel, the students, the history so far. Yeah, and Einstein? Are we not talking about Einstein anymore? Yeah, we do. So I do not agree. And I will show you why. Do you know this photo? I probably know that. It is a photo taken by Voyager 1 in 1999. It's taken from a distance of 60 billion kilometers. What you see there is the Earth, is the blue pale dot. And I find this very important to show because Caroline Pauwels in her Ode aan de Verwondering, book from 2022, I don't have to explain who is Caroline Pauwels here, she quotes the American astrophysicist Carl Sagan said, she quotes Carl Sagan, and that's the man you see there in the upper corner. She quotes him, and I think we have just to read this. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. I know that Musk is dreaming from Mars, but we're not yet there. So, yes, and another one like that. And to finish, it's not only in science, it's also in art, because this is, of course, one of my absolute favorites, Vincent van Gogh. So, thank you very much for listening to me.